Good day, everybody, and welcome to North Standard's webinar. This webinar is entitled The Future of Maritime Excellence, Safeguarding Crew with Visual Fleet Management. With us today, we have a number of panelists. But myself, I'm Colin Gillespie. I'm the Global Head of Loss Prevention at North Standard. We've also got Osho Perry, who's the founder and Chief Executive Officer of ShipIn. We've got Captain Cam, who's the Vice President of Fleet Management at ShipIn. And last but definitely not least, Captain Lakshmi, Managing Director of the Anglo-Eastern Tanker Management in Singapore. Our job today will be to explain to you the background to North Standard's collaboration with ShipIn. Osho will explain something about the product itself, and then Captain Lakshmi will explain how Anglo-Eastern are using ShipIn and the value that they see in it. And of course, then you'll have a chance to ask whatever questions of all four of us that you would wish. Without further ado, I'll sort of set the scene, if you wish. The background to North Standard's Get Set suite of products is really threefold. The three overlapping technologies that we believe can really change how safety in particular is managed at sea, but also operational efficiency. The first of those technologies is the sensor technology and the Internet of Things that we have on board modern ships. Every ship has got thousands of sensors, and those sensors are collecting data and can transmit that data many times a day. So ships are becoming, let's say, almost data providers for the industry. The second technology that enables this is satellite technology. In particular, the reducing costs of buying bandwidth. So best example of that is Starlink. So that allows all the data that we gather on board the ship to be transmitted into the cloud and then to other places, ashore or on the ship. And all that data has to be interpreted. There's lots and lots and lots of data. So for instance, ShipIn, this product, in 1 month might provide 10,000 hours of visual data. Okay, people themselves can't possibly use that and get insights from it. It's just too much. So the third technology is machine learning. And that machine learning can interrogate the data, make sense of it, and provide insights to managers on board and managers ashore. So I sort of think of that as the triumvirate of technologies that are sort of enabling ship management to be done in modern ways. And I think they've got an awful lot of potential, and in 10 years' time, those technologies will be ubiquitous across the industry. Really, for me, the thing that these technologies do is that they close that ship-shore gap that's always been present and has made it difficult for the shore side of the organization and the ship side of the organization to work very closely together. The physical distance, the cost of satellite comms, you know, that's always created that gap between the ship and shore. Sometimes, you know, it creates a trust gap. Sometimes it's a communication gap, but it's always something that's made it more difficult for the ship and shore to work together closely to manage their organization effectively. And I think that those technologies really, they are closing that ship-shore gap. And that has got an awful lot of potential for efficiency and for better operational and safety management. In, you know, more specific to the P&I world, we see lots of persistent issues. You know, we've seen persistent issues for years that are quite stubborn, and they're reducing slowly, but not really reducing as fast as we would like to see. And I think the technology we're talking about today, ShipIn, can you know, make significant leaps in some of these persistent issues. So, for instance, across the club in the last 5 years, we've had over 4,500 personal injury claims, injuries on board ship. And they're not simply too many. I mean, every injury is something that shouldn't happen, but 4,500 is a lot. And they cost the club a significant amount. They cost our members a significant amount. And of course, you know, all the added, I would say, organizational trouble that shipping companies have to go to deal with these injuries. And not to mention, the most important thing is seafarers don't want to have them. Yeah. So we are faced with these persistent issues, and I think the technology we're talking about today is something that can help with this particular issue and with others. Okay. I think the last thing to do is to talk about GetSet itself. GetSet, when I first saw it, I thought that GetSet had a lot of potential. It was sorry, I'm not sure whether my screen's sharing. Can people see my screen? Yeah, okay. GetSet had a lot of potential. You know, I really see it as a key technology to close that ship-shore gap. It really does, you know, I think have the potential to reduce safety incidents, and Usher and Captain Khan will talk about their experiences, and Captain Lakshmi. It can reduce off-hire, it can increase compliance on board, and it can, you know, help with the security of the ship when you're in port. You know, lots of us have faced issues with, for instance, drug smuggling. So it's something that might help provide evidence with that. And it really focuses on the 5 key areas of management: bridge management, safety management, technical management, security, and MARPOL compliance. And it brings together that 10,000 hours of video footage and provides a platform for the shipboard managers, the master and the chief engineer, to monitor what's going on board the ship, and allows that same information to be shared ashore fleet-wide, so that the people ashore can get insights into how individual ships and the fleet as a whole are running, and that can help them design further safety programs. But I'll not say too much about it. I'm going to hand over now to Usher, who will talk about ShipIn in detail. Usher.
Thank you, Colin. Just making sure you can hear me okay. Thank you. So I'd first like to start with thanking you and Nostalgia Club for having us here today, speaking about the solutions. We are very excited about the collaboration that was just announced between ShipIn and No Standards GetSet program. I think we see it as a breakthrough program where leading industry insurer is taking a step, pioneering step forward in adopting advanced solutions to reduce the risks on board the vessels and aid the crew on board to perform in a better, safer manner. And so again, thank you. I'd also like to personally thank Captain Lakshmi Salvadi of Anglo Eastern, who is joining us here today to provide from his personal and professional experience with the system over the last several months. So thank you for taking the time, especially at this late hour in Singapore. A few words as background about ShipIn and the Fleet Vision platform. So in terms of, just as a company, we're headquartered out of Boston. We've launched, you can move to the next slide, Colin, please. Thank you. We've launched the product commercially in 2022 and has seen a significant growth over the last couple of years in the number of owners, number of vessels that have been joining to the platform. I think when Colin mentioned the third tool as machine learning, And so I think that there are a couple of areas that we would like to points that we would like to highlight that are related to the application, which we will discuss, of machine learning, of AI on board the vessels. And also there is a level of maturity that is required as you apply these advanced tools. They are not without mistakes, as you know. Specifically for ShipIn, over the last couple of years, we've submitted and were granted there are 8 patents on the machine learning applications that is specific to the maritime environment, to the operations on board the vessels. And currently we are analyzing and digesting across the vessels that are deployed about 2 billion images, frames per day across the vessels. And so generating thousands of events on a regular operational basis. And we will show and demonstrate how all of this is coming to life. And maybe most importantly is what is the value for you as an owner and operator running the vessels. To set the discussion, as someone that has, just as my personal background, I've sailed professionally for 10 years, before then working in investments for a few years, and then developing tech solutions for industrial applications, including manufacturing. Several years back, it made sense, it became evident that the tools that have been successfully deployed in every industrial environment around us, and not just in industrial environments, but on our day-to-day, those tools of AI, of machine learning that exist today in manufacturing, in agriculture, in construction, in automotive, have not made a significant step into the maritime space, into the shipping world. And from our perspective, perhaps this is the industry that requires them the most, given the very complex operations that we have in remote destinations and changing conditions, and generally the environment in which the crew is operating and the tasks that are required to fulfill. I often speak about a comparison between a $100 million vessel and a $100 million factory. And if you ask yourself, as a plant manager of such a factory, what performance management tools do I have at my disposal for performance management, for production, for efficiency, for safety, for unexpected downtime, root cause analysis, and so on? And as a ship's captain of a similar value asset, what performance management tools do I have currently at my disposal? And without getting into much detail on this, I think we can all agree around this virtual table that the gaps are quite wide. And so with that in mind, we've established ShipIn to deal with the challenges that the seafarers today and the owners and the managers are facing. I think that we can, again, when we look at the industry and our practices over the past decades now, we've been implementing the practices of training, of coaching, of audits, surveys, and yet we are, I would say, rather falling slightly short still in how the vessels are operating, in the damages and losses that we see, unfortunately, routinely around the world. The human error still remains as the default cause without our proper analysis to take data-driven investigation on what are the actual practices, what are the actual conditions in which the crew and the vessels are operating. And as we all know, the same time frame of these several decades, ships have gotten significantly bigger. They're carrying a lot more cargo. We're running new fuels, new machinery. Every report now has every activity now has multiple reports that need to be generated. And all of this on the shoulders of the crew that is reducing in size and availability. And in a way, we're sending them out to sea and saying, bon voyage, we will see you on the other side, come back to us safely. And so these, again, have fallen short. And so we've implemented Fleet Vision with that in mind. And the main steps, if we move on to the next slide, the main steps of Fleet Vision are the following. We allow the AI, we harness the AI to analyze shipboard operations continuously around the vessel. We identify risk factors on board the ship and across the fleet and enable that data-driven action to be taken first and foremost by the crew on board, as well as by the owners, fleet directors, and superintendents as they do their day-to-day operations in understanding what are the risks and where focus needs to be given. The resulting impact is reducing the losses and increasing the productivity on board the vessels. A couple of case studies to run through. We see it time and time again now that in fleets, there can be mixed fleets, dry bulk fleets, containers, tankers, and all segments that we're working across. There are, as we deploy the systems, there are quite a lot of anomalies that are identified on board the vessels, and highlighting the ability, I'd say, of this is a mixed fleet that has deployed about 10% of their fleet in a trial phase. Crew adoption to engage with the platform led to a significant, quite rapid reduction of these anomalies on board the vessels. That led to an increase of score. And as you tie to the end loop is the ability to then see over a period of time 0 incidents on that specific fleet. From that perspective, we're not claiming that there will be continuous 0 incidents. However, in this case, it was a very successful implementation and also allowed for a comparison as benchmarking compares to the rest of the fleet. On another case study that is speaking about the technical availability, on the next slide, we have the, again, this is a dry bulk fleet that had multiple technical unplanned off-hire days as a result of improper maintenance that was done across the fleet. With Fleet Vision deployed, the maintenance, the technical operations have been strengthened, the ability to support the crew on board on the maintenance activities, to link it to as a semi-automatic and into the PMS, the ability of review of the operations that are done, reducing the stoppages at sea, and leading to a significant decrease in the unplanned downtime. So if we get now to the part of how it is actually achieving this, how it is doing what we're presenting, there are 4 key steps to this to the platform. The first is the ability to capture the visual information. This is relying on what you would say a traditional or existing solution of CCTV around the vessels. For ShipIn, for vessels that have not been deployed with such solutions, we are providing the full kits of the cameras, cabling, and of course, most importantly, the AI edge server at no capex to you as owners and operators. You can see from this diagram that the installation is done in the operating areas of the vessels, in the wheelhouse, onto the wings, in the manifold in a tanker, or cranes in dry bulk and alleyways on the container vessels. And then in the engine compartments, that is main engine, auxiliary engine, steering gear room, oil water separator, and so on. The second step is the ability, Colin mentioned the 10,000 hours of video that are generated. And so taking the AI and allowing it to digest the information, to identify maintenance operations, the length of it, to identify entry to engine room during UMS, smoke or blackout events that are identified continuously in real time on board the vessels. That is the role of the AI server that is on board in digesting all of this terabytes and terabytes of data on board the vessels. The third step is, say, the manifestation of the system in the sense that there is a dashboard on board the vessel for the utilization of the captain, the chief engineer, the chief officer, and at the same time, there is a similar dashboard for the fleet view from the office, from the shore management. This is powered by patents on communicating this visual information in an efficient way. It is communicating event-based rather than full transmission of video, which is impossible in our marine environment and based on our network and communication packages. Another aspect on this point is that video is never enough. It is a single sensor. It is of extreme importance to understand the environment and the conditions in which the vessel is operating at any given point in time, meaning the policy or the expectations for a specific task would change whether the vessel is at port during cargo operations, at anchor, sailing close proximity to shore, or out at sea, or in different weather conditions. And so based on that, the system currently is taking and digesting the video with parts of the SMS that are incorporated in AIS, weather conditions, and so on, to provide a holistic understanding of whether a task should have happened as they did, and what are anomalies, what would be the green, yellow, red events according to the operating status. Last but not least, definitely, maybe the most important aspect of the system today is the ability to not just give the detections and the notifications on the events that have been identified, but to elevate it and to aggregate it on a performance level on each of the core operating areas of the ship: navigation and bridge, safety, security, technical availability, and the MARPL. And what you're seeing here in front of you is a screenshot of a performance of an owner with two fleets, two technical managers, how each of them is performing. And the next under it is how each of the vessels is performing. And if you go further down, it's the actual individual events that have been detected on a specific vessel. And what it allows is comparing, we say, apples to apples across your vessels, across the different types of ships. You're able to see what is the performance upon deployment and allow the captains to become the CEOs of their own organizations. I'm coming back to the point of how we started, providing the captain, a $100 million vessel captain, the tools to improve the performance, to manage his operations. And this is how we move from raw video capabilities, detection on early hazard activities and risks, and into the integration of data, and to the manifestation essentially of these risk scores and improvement tools. And what is most, in our perspective, as the people that develop the system, if you look at the dotted lines, these are across the hundreds of vessels we currently have on board on the platform. The top dotted line represents the top quartile. The best performing vessels are above it. If you look at the bottom dotted line, is the bottom quartile. Some vessels are in that section, not performing as properly. And what you're seeing is that the actual benchmark across different types of vessels, different fleets, different geographies, all vessels that are on the platform gravitate up and improve their performance once given that visibility. From our perspective, it is a major step forward to understanding what are the risks and to empower the crew on board to do their jobs in a safer and more productive way. The system, as we bring Fleet Vision to the market, and is focused on 5 solutions, 5 modules. One is the safety. The second is the technical. Third is security. Fourth is MARPL. And again, not last but not least in this case, is the bridge and the navigation conduct. And Colin, we can run through the next few clicks. And there are, as we discuss, those raw capabilities to detections, to the analytics and the data-driven action. There are value points to each one of these solutions. That flow exists to each one of these modules. And they lead to over 40% reduction in incidents on board on average, 28% less unplanned technical off-hire, leading to decriminalizing the crew and safeguarding the security of the ships, mitigating the risks of fines and detentions on MARPL, and of course, increasing the bridge conduct and navigation safety. Getting here to the end of close to the end of the presentation, if we move to the next slide, we've a word about the company and how we established it, and just a little bit about our vision to this. When people talked about cameras on board and have been deploying CCTV in the past, it was in a way to police the crew and to find fault when things happen. We are bringing an approach that is the opposite end of that spectrum. The purpose of the system is to first and foremost support the captain and his crew in performing their responsibilities. We discourage teams to use the platform to then call and say how things were done or not done remotely, but to empower the responsible parties, the responsible crew on board to do their tasks. We put a lot of emphasis on this. Internally within ShipIn, the company is built, there are 2 pillars. One is the AI developers led by our chief scientist, Dr. David Michael, who is a PhD at MIT in computer vision with 80 patents in the space, and his team of engineers. And the second pillar of the company is Captain Khan, a former master mariner. He'll give his background shortly, and his team, all former seafarers. Together, we're providing these tools in the language and the approach that we believe is best fit for the vessels and for the crew. We routinely survey the crew about what is their impression, what is their feedback on using the system, and you can see the results here in front of you. And we're happy to answer any other questions on that. Last slide is a question that I have to each one of you here. We have nearly 70 participants on this call and from dozens of different companies, ship owners and operators. So the question that I have to you at the end of this short presentation is, what do you think is the average safety violations that occur on your vessels in a month? Yes, if we take a moment to consider that, and then we can share with you that as we deploy the system, we see that in the first month, when we measure, the bottom quartile tends to have, and these are fleets that have decided to deploy in a way, it's like the self-selection has already been done. On the bottom quartile, we see 439 times on average that the crew of a single vessel, it's coming out to about 12 times a day, are acting outside of the policy, putting themselves, their lives, and the vessel at risk. On the top quartile, you're looking at about 117. So a very wide gap, but still 4 times a day that you are seeing that unsafe behavior, unsafe acts taking place. Once Fleet Vision is deployed and implemented and onboarded to the crew, what we are seeing is on average 4 per month with the platform on. And from our perspective, again, just looking at the anomalies, it's quite a significant improvement when you consider the requirements, the needs of the pressure of the tasks that seafarers are experiencing today. With that, I will conclude my part of the presentation. There's a chat function here. Please feel free to add the questions to what you've just heard. I will pass on the baton here to Captain Lakshmi to provide his experience of using a Fleet Vision on their vessels. And later on, I believe we have a panel discussion in which we can answer these questions. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Osher. So it's my turn now?
It's you now, Captain Lakshmi. Can you just tell us your experiences of using Fleet Vision and the value it's bringing to Anglo Eastern?
Okay. Thanks, Colin, for this opportunity to talk to this esteemed panel and all the owners over here. Okay, so I'm in Singapore and it's pretty late over here. It's about 9:30, so working in a quarter in the hour. So this ShipIn project, when we first saw that presentation, so why it all started is that we were having some struggle in influencing people's behavior on bridge, on the other safety behaviors, because we were having repeated incidents going through the same phase of error or negligence or all those downside of normal people were put together to work in an environment, like any other shipping company. And we are looking for a solution which we thought of putting up a camera to see it, like learning from the traffic cameras. When you put a camera, so how do we behave? You just slow down when the camera comes and then you again speed up. So we thought, would that be an idea? And we didn't want to have a system which would just be policing our people. Instead, we wanted to have a more engaging system which would help to self-develop our behaviors in a manner which would ensure psychological safety of people working on the vessel. And that's where we come across Osho's presentation. It was a brilliant idea. We instantly thought of, this is what we are looking at. So it's not a normal camera. It's not a normal camera which just records the events as you see it. Like he's trying to explain it, it's a AI enabled camera. So it will identify anomalies as what we have programmed it for. For example, we have asked for, can we have a situation where it would detect people going on the deck in heavy weather? So then it could be programmed that it can pick up the data from the various systems. It can see, it can monitor the vessel having a wind force of 6+, and then there is somebody on the deck. So this camera can detect that, and it will trigger that as an anomaly. So when the anomaly is triggered in, is the ship's captain who's looking at these anomalies, and he's the guy who's going to do what he's supposed to do. But we don't ask questions on any of the anomalies which comes in. So how it works is that when we started off, I remember some of the ships had 40, 50 safety anomalies on a month, and they were asked to improve on that themselves without asking questions, without investigating into any of these anomalies we find it. So we said we are not going to come into that. With this system is that for us to monitor and jointly engage with you, and then you have to improve the score. So they were self-correcting it, and we have seen that ships falling down from 70, 80% of range to coming close to 100% on safety behavior. So on various aspects which you are seeing. So at the moment we have run few trials on about 17, 18 ships. We are adding a few more ships onto the system. We are seeing is that these vessels where we have installed this program, we have installed a 25 camera system on our ships we operate. It had, when I looked at this since October till now, this October is what we started, October 23. We don't have any injuries on the ships to start with. So whatever you are saying now, I always tell come through the full. I'm saying that the indications are very strong. It has an influence on the players. And the important thing for us to understand is that it's not policing to the crew should feel that they are being closely observed at every activity they do. We have no room for mistakes. So the 5 performance principles, activity that we allow people to make mistakes, normal to be able to make mistakes, and blame thing or how it responds back. All those principles are in us all the time, and you see things. Other things, something is wrong, you don't know it, but we engage in the dashboard every day. How many anomalies are there? Is okay on this question answers going on, and if something is, I may have what's going on the ship. So we all take feedback from the staff, like Master Chief, and how does it work for you? Do you feel is anything different that a normal work hammer is different than what the way they used to work with? They find that see it's a transition from one system to another machine learning system, which I've seen is that people are coming into this habit of working within the system, and it is helping to improve their habits. Initially, it may be a bit of hesitance, but once you start using it regularly, when you're putting a helmet becomes a habit at all times, then it doesn't burden you anymore. That's how the system works for you, because it's just your habit in a good manner. And small things like 3-point contact going down the ladder, it will catch up. It trigger an anomaly. So if it anomaly, the ship responsible to correct it, improve the graph, because they are already matched with the peer. They know that you stand and when the other ship stands. So it's a correcting mechanism, as I see it now. I have more time, speak more.
On mute, still haven't learned to not click. Thanks, Captain. Actually, that's very interesting. I just you mentioned a couple of bits, specific things that you've had it set up for. I'd just like that, Captain Khan. You know, what are the typical requests from ship owners for particular a particular focus for the equipment. What sort of things are you seeing, Captain Khan?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the first thing which Captain Lakshmi has mentioned, that the way has implemented the system on board ship, that is what we have reckoned as the best practice. The system is not a tool. And if Captain is asking me that we have this camera now, who is watching me? And our typical answer from us only, but also from the management company, nobody is watching you. The system is watching for you. And then with that mentality, when we see tremendous results. And then in the presentation, you saw that even though benchmarks are improving, that means the whole industry is improving as long as they use the system, right? So that is one thing. Now, coming back to the question which you have, is that there was a big gap between how the operations are happening on board ship and how they are supposed to be, right? So one of the area which we hear all the time from our customers is that they would like to definitely on their navigational conduct, because the problem which we see with this conventional mechanism is that they have all those protocols in place in terms of training, in terms of hiring the right people, providing them all those things. But I think the one of the major reason for accidents on board ships, especially the navigation accident, complacency, right? And there was no tool to measure that. There was no tool to provide that information to the master on board ship, who is the sole responsible of his accountability, that he was not having that tool on board ship. And then once the tool is provided to him, he is then able to that knowledge, reflect on what is happening on board ship with his team. And then his team is also, improving, because there is a motivational, aspect that, okay, we need to do something which is reflected as a best practice. So next thing, the other area which we often get questions about is how do we change the mindset of the people on board ship? We want to say that actually the behaviors are changing, right? So that is something which if you are able to change the people's behavior, if the safety is into their heads, every operation they will perform will be safe operation. I think this is what they're looking for from the system. And we often hear that with all those conventional systems, they have hit a plateau, that the performance doesn't go up beyond that percent of the scope with the conventional methods. And with this system on board ship, which is providing the crew on board ship, the master on board ship, an objective measure of his implementation of MS on board, with this objective evidence, with this visual kind of a context, the master is then able to share this information in his day-to-day routine, in his toolbox, in his safety committee meetings, and so on. And then with that sharing of knowledge, we have seen changes in behaviors. And then that behavior is not only reflected that, okay, I have less anomalies. It is also reflected in improvement in performance of your in performance of your oil major, and also the feedback from the terminals, because they say, okay, we have your ships, and then see that there's a remarkable improvement. So the safety is not only reducing the, but it's also impacting the other aspect of the business, that how is the reputation of this management company, how is the reputation of this particular vessel, and so on. So this is what I've seen, the navigation and the safety. These are the two key aspects. But there are other, customers. They have some specific needs. For example, they are trading in area where there is piracy, right? And all those passive or legacy CCTV system, they are like portholes. You look into them, you see something. The moment you put your eye somewhere else, you don't see what is happening. In the system, it provides you ability that if something is happening, I will tell you. So you don't need to watch. I will watch for you. And that kind of information has been highly useful for companies. And we have been getting that kind of feedback from companies, and as well as the master on board ship.
Thanks, Captain Cam. I think the point you made around the sort of plateau of safety is a very apt one. It's something we picked up from club data a number of years ago, that safety and safety culture can get you far. Seem to have plateaued, and we were then getting these persistent issues that just didn't go away. I think this technology is something that can sort of help to close the gap between the plateau and the zero. Maybe not completely close it, of course, but it can help to close that gap further. Where before we were having quite a bit of trouble getting it. That's a really good point, Captain Gillespie. If I can come back to you, the point that Captain Khan made around sort of reputation. Do you see a commercial advantage for the vessels that you're trading with ShipIn involved? When you're speaking with your principals, or maybe speaking with charterers, is it something that you can showcase to them to say, well, our vessel's just this little bit better?
Colin, thanks for the question. Actually, a very good question. I can say that yes, because in my recent presentations, when I was touring to our oil major time charter partner and clients, and I did a presentation in this. There are a few points. There are a few other initiatives we do with respect to safety improvement. One of them is the ShipIn. Very good reception from BP team in Chicago, Shell, and Shell was here in our office recently. The presentation I was explaining this same point. It is others which I'm to tell them that what is the next level of safety which we can do. But the whole industry here, when you talk about the safety system, is moving from safety 1 to safety 2. It's a moving stage of safety into. We are putting aspects here. The tanker, the SAR 2.0 is kicking in, and everything is based on the principles of five human performance, human and organizational performance. You have to change the way which we are doing things. Then only this can progress to the next level. So we need some proactive means to do things. Machine learning has to be applied. So when we already have this implemented and the results are shown, and we have a very good response our side, or the chartering side of these vessels on this. They keep asking more questions to learn more about it, and then to see that how we are able to manage, control, and reduce injuries by influencing behaviors.
Thank you, Gillespie. Sure. Back to you. Can you talk a bit about the makeup of the vessels that are using ShipIn? It's not just tankers and big tanker companies. There's a big mix. Could you just explain sort of how that split, please?
Yes, definitely. So 100 vessels right now on the platform, and about 37 owners. These represent all of the nearly all of the vessel types. We're roughly at about 34-35% tankers. Similar, slightly lower number. I think it's about 30% of dry bulk, 27% of container vessels, and then we have now started onboarding car carriers and offshore vessels as well. And so, yeah, so that's I think that when we built the system, it is very clear that our when you look at these topics of operations on board the vessels, the safety aspect, technical aspect, the security, these concerns are shared global fleets, and the design of the system, from the locations, the operation areas, to the type of detections that we provide, currently speak the language to all owners and vessel types and geographies. So we work across, we have owners in every major geography of the industry that the industry is operating at.
Okay, thanks, Osha. Captain Khan, you're the seafarer end of, and probably this is one for Lakshmi as well. Is it, one of the things I sometimes hear is, this other thing, the seafarers like it, And I think you both touched on that, but are you getting strong positive feedback? And is it almost seafarers? And I always think the acid test is seafarer says, "I don't want to go on a ship unless it's got that on it." Then they brought GPS in if you didn't want to go to the ship that didn't have the GPS unit fitted first. So, are you getting that sort of feedback from the masters?
Yeah, great question. So I think as I was trying to explain earlier is that the key how the management company is implementing the system on their ships, right? If the message from the get-go is that it is a tool for you, and then here are the objectives, which is solely the improvements of safety on board ship to make the ship safe place for you and your colleagues to work on. Right? If we have that, and definitely it attracts all the positive behaviors. And then when we are onboarding members, we have a complete team here. So my team is comprising of master mariners, marine engineers, right? And I have, of course, previously sailed on tanks throughout my life on chemical tankers. Worked for ship management companies, and I was leading that safety vetting team. And then I worked for technical team, managing the managers for an ownership company. So I have the opportunity to see all these different sides. So when I say that, we have used several in my previous roles. We have used several kind of technologies, and one of the